The glass cracked first, a thin, splintering sound that cut through the boardroom's silence. Nia Carter didn't move. Her reflection fractured across the glossy table, just as the chairman's words did. "We can't have someone like you representing the face of this merger." Her pulse roared in her ears. Cameras flashed. Journalists perched behind the tinted glass wall, summoned for what she'd been told was a public announcement. Instead, it was an execution. "Someone like me?" she said, voice low, steady. He smiled, that polished corporate grin. "You're brilliant, Nia, but optics matter. Investors prefer familiarity." The word hung, poisonous and coated. Around the table, the men in navy suits looked anywhere but at her. Shoes, pens, papers, a choreography of cowardice. Her hands trembled under the table, nails digging crescents into her palm. The air reeked of citrus polish and betrayal. She stood. "You're firing me for being black." "No," he said smoothly. "We're restructuring leadership optics." A single click, a camera shutter, froze her humiliation in digital eternity. Outside, a crowd waited for the announcement of the company's new direction. She walked out under the blistering lights, her breath caught between rage and disbelief. Behind her, a voice whispered to a reporter, "She got too bold. Forgot who signs the checks." That line made the evening news. By morning, her name trended under Dr. Carter controversy. By nightfall, her face was plastered beneath the headline, "Disgraced CEO removed after diversity pushback." And then, a single message lit her phone screen. They picked the wrong woman to humiliate. She looked up at her reflection in the window, steady, unbroken, as the city lights burned behind her. The boardroom smelled of lemon polish and control. Nia Carter sat at the long, glinting table, posture perfect, hands folded in her lap like armor. Sunlight cut through the blinds, striping her face in gold and shadow. Across from her, Chairman Lowell adjusted his cufflinks, slow and deliberate. Around him sat 12 men, 1 woman, all white, all watching her like an inconvenient truth. "Thank you for joining, Miss Carter," Lowell said, his tone drenched in false warmth. "You've been a tremendous asset." Nia inclined her head. "Then I assume this meeting is about finalizing the merger?" A murmur rippled. Someone cleared his throat. Lowell leaned back. "Actually, there's been concern about optics." "Optics," Nia repeated, tasting the word like ash. "Yes." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Some investors expressed discomfort with your leadership during negotiations. We need to assure them of cultural alignment." Cultural alignment. The phrase struck like a slap. She forced a measured breath. "So you're saying they don't want a black woman leading them?" The silence that followed was answer enough. "Let's be careful with phrasing," Lowell said mildly. "You're highly capable. This is about perception, not race." Her chair scraped back. The sound split the air. "Perception is race, Mr. Lowell. You just don't want to admit it." The woman beside him flinched. One of the younger men muttered, "She's making this about identity again." Nia's laugh was sharp, mirthless. "Identity? You dragged reporters here to watch you strip me of mine." Lowell's voice dropped, quiet and lethal. "You're dismissed, Miss Carter, effective immediately." The words struck with bureaucratic precision, polished cruelty dressed as policy. A reporter's camera clicked once, twice. Her humiliation immortalized. As she turned to leave, Lowell added softly, "We'll ensure your transition is handled with dignity." She didn't look back. You wouldn't recognize dignity if it quit your board. Outside, the lobby lights felt surgical. Reporters swarmed. "Nia, did you resign? Were you forced out? Is it true you refused to comply with diversity audits?" She pushed through them, her breath shallow, each flash a blade of white light. By the time she reached the street, her phone vibrated endlessly. Notifications stacked, headlines forming faster than thought. Diversity Star CEO ousted in corporate shakeup. Sources, tensions over leadership optics, her mother called. Nia didn't answer. The city roared, cars, voices, a busker's distant trumpet. But her world narrowed to the sound of her heels striking pavement. Click, click, click. Proof she was still standing. At home, she sat in the dark. The skyline blinked outside her window, impersonal and vast. Her laptop glowed with open news tabs, her name dissected by strangers. Then her inbox chimed. A single anonymous message, "You didn't deserve that." There's proof they planned it. Check your mail tomorrow. Her hand trembled over the mouse. For the first time since the boardroom, her heart began to race. Not from fear, but from something sharper, a promise forming in the dark. The next morning, the world had already rewritten her story. Carter's temper costs her job. Corporate star implodes under pressure. Diversity. Darling becomes liability. The headlines pulsed across every site, each one sharper than the last. Nia stared at her phone, the glow carving shadows into her face. Her reflection in the black screen looked like a stranger, the kind who'd already been judged and archived. Her apartment was too quiet, the kind of quiet that hums in your bones. She hadn't slept. Coffee cooled untouched on the counter. Outside, the city pulsed, indifferent. A buzz. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Ms. Carter? It's Raymond. Her former mentor, the one who'd promised to look out for her. His voice was soft, too soft. I just wanted to check in. Tough day, I imagine. You saw the footage, she said flatly. A pause. I did. It's unfortunate. Unfortunate. The word made her jaw tighten. You mean calculated? Nia, he sighed. You know how this works. Optics, investors, it's not personal. It's always personal when it's your skin, Raymond. Listen, he continued, dropping his voice. Let it go. Don't fight this. The company's moving on. You should too. She stared at the blank wall in front of her. You're protecting them. I'm protecting you. No, she said quietly. You're protecting your seat at the table. She ended the call. The silence that followed was heavier than before. Hours later, the mail slot clattered. She crossed the room slowly, pulse ticking. A plain manila envelope slid halfway through, caught against the door. No return address. Inside, a USB drive. She turned it over in her hand. No note, no markings. Just a faint red sticker hand-scrawled. For truth. Her mind flashed back to the anonymous email. There's proof they planned it. She plugged it into her laptop. A folder opened. Board call recordings.mp3. Her heartbeat surged. She pressed play. Voices. Clear. Unmistakable. Lowell. Optics are bad. Investors don't like her fronting this merger. Find a reason. Any reason to remove her. Keep it clean. Unknown voice. We'll cite cultural misalignment. Laughter. Someone snapped fingers. Make sure legal signs off. She ripped out the USB, chest tight. The sound still echoed inside her skull. Laughter, smug and distant. She called her old colleague Rachel. Straight to voicemail. She tried another, Malik, the journalist she'd met years ago during a charity gala. He picked up on the third ring. Carter, that's a surprise. Do you still write for The Wire? I freelance now. Why? I have something. Something big. What kind of something? The kind that ends careers. He hesitated. You know what that means, right? They'll come for you. They already did. Silence then. Meet me tomorrow. 10 a.m. at the cafe on West 42nd. Bring the evidence. Don't send it online. She closed her laptop and leaned back, the city noise seeping through the window. For the first time since the firing, the fear in her chest twisted into something else. Precision. The world had buried her alive. But she was learning how to dig. That night her mother called again. This time Nia answered. I saw the news, her mother said. You looked calm. Too calm. I didn't want to give them a performance. They'll twist you no matter how you look. A sigh. Baby, these people have power. Be careful. I'm done being careful. You sound like your father, her mother murmured. He believed truth could save people. It didn't. Nia's throat tightened. I'm not trying to be saved. Then what are you trying to be? Unforgettable. Her mother said nothing for a long moment. Then make sure it's worth the cost. When the call ended, Nia stared at the city lights flickering like coded messages in the glass. She thought of the recording of Lowell's smug laugh. Tomorrow, she would meet Malik. Tomorrow, silence would end. Tonight, it pressed close, not as a prison, but as a countdown. The cafe was small, tucked between a pawn shop and a law office, its walls lined with framed photos of long-dead jazz players. The kind of place where people came to be forgotten. Nia sat in the corner booth facing the door. A rain-soaked morning blurred the street outside. car lights streaking red and gold through the window. Her coat was damp, her hands restless around a cooling cup of coffee. Malik arrived late, trench coat, hood up, scanning the room before sliding into the seat across from her. His voice was low even. "You look like someone who hasn't slept." "I haven't," she said. "You still run stories that ruin powerful men?" He smirked. "Only when they deserve it." She slid the USB across the table. He didn't touch it yet. "What's on it?" "Boardroom audio. They planned my firing. Illegal recordings? Not by me. Anonymous source. That's worse," he said softly. "You don't know who's feeding you." "I don't care. It's real." Malik finally picked up the USB, turning it in his fingers. "If it's genuine, this could be major. But they'll hit back. Lawsuits, smear campaigns, everything. They already used all that. What's left?" He studied her, eyes narrowing. "You think this'll fix it?" "No, but it'll make them answer for it," a waitress passed. Malik leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper. "You're not the first. 3 women of color left that company last year. None of them spoke out. NDAs, hush payments, career threats. Names?" He shook his head. "Sealed. That's what they do. Isolate, silence, erase. You're the first one still standing." Nia exhaled slowly. "Then I'll stand louder." He smiled faintly, but there was worry behind it. "I'll have my tech team verify the audio. If it's authentic, we run the story. But if it's doctored, you'll go down harder than before." "It's real," she said again, firmer this time. He paused, then nodded. "Give me 48 hours. She watched him pocket the USB. "You ever think they'll stop doing this?" Malik's expression turned distant. "Racism's like mold, it grows in the dark. You shine light on it, it doesn't die. It hides." The rain thickened, drumming the windows. She sat there long after he left, the taste of burnt coffee and iron in her mouth. Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "We know what you took." Her pulse jumped. She looked around, no one watching, yet she felt the invisible eyes. "Cameras, phones, reflections," she typed back, fingers steady. "Then you know I won't stop." No reply. She left the cafe, crossing wet pavement slick as glass. The wind carried fragments of voices, commuters, street vendors, a preacher on the corner shouting about truth. By the time she reached home, her building lobby felt different. Too quiet, too still. She rode the elevator alone. The mirrored walls reflected 10 versions of herself, each one looking more like a stranger at war. Inside her apartment, the light blinked on. Her laptop screen was open. She hadn't left it that way. A folder glowed on the desktop. "Return it." Her chest tightened. She clicked. A single image inside. Her face from that morning, sitting in the cafe. She froze. Someone was following her. Her phone rang again. "Malik." She answered. "You okay?" he asked immediately. "They're watching," she said. "Stay calm. It means the file's real. Or it means I'm next." "You want it to be unforgettable," he said quietly. "That's the price." Nia closed the laptop. "Then they'll remember my name for the right reason." "Keep your phone on," Malik said. "And Nia, don't go anywhere alone." The call ended. She stared out at the city below, lights flickering through mist. Somewhere down there, someone was watching her window, tracking her every move. She didn't back away. She just whispered to herself, steady and cold. "Let them watch. I'm done hiding." The words hung in the room like a vow. Outside, thunder rolled. Low, distant, but coming closer. The parking lot was nearly empty when Nia pulled up to the glass tower she once ruled. The company logo glowed against the rain, clean, white, and false. She sat behind the wheel, engine idling, pulse ticking with the wipers. It had been 2 weeks since Malik took the audio. He'd confirmed it, authentic, time-stamped, unedited. But publishing required documentation, written proof, financials, emails. He needed her to get them. "You're the only one who still has access," he'd said. She'd laughed without humor. "They revoked my ID. Find another way." So here she was. Midnight. She grabbed her old badge, deactivated, and an external drive. Her reflection in the rearview looked unrecognizable. Black cap, dark jacket, determination replacing exhaustion. Inside, the lobby's security lights hummed faintly. She slipped through a side door where the night janitor used to let her in during early mornings years ago. Her heels then had clicked on marble. Now her sneakers made no sound. She rode the elevator to the 18th floor. Familiar hallway, frosted glass walls. Her name still faintly printed on the door plaque. Nia Carter, Chief Executive Officer. A ghost of authority. Inside her old office, everything was scrubbed clean. Photos gone, desk polished, her presence erased. But she knew where to look. She crouched near the cabinet, pried open the bottom drawer, found the hidden flash storage she'd stashed years ago, back when she still trusted this place. She connected it to her laptop. Emails scrolled by. Too aggressive in tone. Consider less visible role. Rebrand Carter's leadership image. Each word a blade. Then she found it. A private thread between Lowell and 2 board members. Lowell, she'll resist. If we make it about temperament, no one will question it. Reply, optics of replacing her with someone more traditional will calm investors. Attached, a confidential memo titled, Strategic Reorganization Plan, Phase 2. She copied everything. Then, footsteps. Her breath froze. She closed the laptop, killed the screen. The door handle turned. Security, hello? A man's voice echoed. Keys jingled. The flashlight beam cut through the dark. Nia slid under the desk, heartbeat thunderous. The guard stepped inside, sweeping the light slowly across the room. It caught the glass of her framed award still on the shelf. Innovator of the Year, 2023. The beam lingered, then drifted away. The door clicked shut. She waited another minute before standing. Her reflection stared back from the window, pale, tense, but unbroken. She slipped out, retracing her steps down the hall. Elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Too loud. When she reached the lobby, her phone buzzed. Malik, everything okay? She texted, got it. Leaving now. The front doors loomed, heavy glass, rain beyond them. She pushed through and stepped into the wet night. Only then did she notice the car across the street. Engine running, headlights off. Her pace quickened. The car didn't move. At home, she dumped the files into a secure folder, encrypted, sent them to Malik with one line. Make it count. He replied minutes later. This is bigger than I thought. We'll need to coordinate. Once it drops, they'll retaliate fast. She typed back. Let them. But after sending it, she just sat there, staring at her hands. They were trembling, though she hadn't noticed before. She thought of the silence in that boardroom. Of every man who'd looked away while she burned. Now they'd have to look again. At 2 a.m., she walked to the window. The city pulsed below, Indy alive, indifferent but watching, and she whispered not for anyone but herself. They erased me from the glass. Now I'll carve my name into it. Behind her, her laptop pinged, and another anonymous message. They know what you took. It's too late to stop now. The message vanished seconds later. The night outside pressed closer. Thick, electric, waiting. By dawn, the story broke. Exclusive. Leaked recordings reveal racial bias behind CEO's firing. The headline hit every major site within hours. Malik's article ran with precision. Time-stamped transcripts, emails, boardroom quotes, and her name in bold Nia Carter. Once disgraced, now undeniable. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Thousands of messages, calls from unknown numbers, requests for interviews. Some were support. We see you, Queen. Others venom. Liar. Race baiter. Ungrateful. She turned the phone face down. The light kept flashing. Malik called. It's everywhere, he said. CNN, BBC, even tabloids. You're trending again. Under what? He hesitated. Carter Files. She almost laughed. They always turn you into a hashtag before they turn you into a person again. It's working, Malik said. They can't deny it now. They'll try, she replied. Within an hour, the company released a statement, sterile, corporate, rehearsed. We take allegations of bias seriously and are conducting an internal review. The same hands that fired her were now performing outrage for the cameras. By afternoon, her lawyer called. Nia, they're preparing a counterclaim. Theft of proprietary data. They'll allege you hacked their system. I didn't. They don't care. They just need doubt. I'll testify. Every word I said is true. And they'll spin it as revenge. Be ready for that, her mother called next. I saw the news again. I told the truth. I know. her mother said, voice trembling. But truth doesn't protect us. It never did. This time it will. A pause. You really believe that? I have to. That night, Nia stepped outside for the first time in days. Paparazzi had already found her street. Flashbulbs exploded. Ms. Carter, did you leak the recordings yourself? Do you regret your diversity push? Are you trying to destroy your former employer? She kept walking, chin high, the noise collapsing around her. Malik's voice echoed in her ear. Racism hides in light, not dark. By the next morning, the story shifted again. News anchors debated her tone. Analysts questioned her anger. She's articulate, but emotional. She's right, but perhaps too confrontational. She's brave, but maybe reckless. Each phrase a blade disguised as balance. Malik called again. You seeing this coverage? I'm seeing them try to humanize the company, she said. Typical. But the files are undeniable. We've got whistleblowers reaching out now, current employees. Her heart skipped. How many? 3 so far. Maybe more. You started something, Nia. She wanted to feel proud. Instead, she felt exposed. Every article, every talking head dissected her name. Strangers called her hero or fraud, saint or scandal. The truth was public, but her peace was gone. That evening, Malik sent her a message. They want you on live TV. Primetime interview. National broadcast. She stared at the text. Her pulse quickened. Another message followed. If you do this, there's no going back, she typed. Book it. As night fell, her phone lit up again. A new message from an unknown sender. You think exposure makes you safe? You have no idea what they've buried. Attached was a photo. Lowell smiling at a dinner table with 2 senators. The caption read, Friends in higher places. Nia closed her eyes. The hum of her apartment filled the silence. Refrigerator. Street noise, her own heartbeat. She thought of the boardroom, of every polite smirk that had dismissed her. Tomorrow, she would face the cameras again, not as their token, not as their mistake, but as their reckoning. She turned off her lights and whispered into the dark, a vow sharpened by exhaustion. They wanted optics. I'll give them visibility. Outside, the world kept scrolling her name. The studio was colder than she expected. Polished chrome, perfect lighting, silence before the storm. Technicians whispered behind cameras, adjusting mics, counting seconds. Nia sat beneath the lights, spine straight. Palms flat on her lap. Across from her sat Diane West, the nation's most watched political host, famous for disarming smiles and dagger questions. 30 seconds, a producer called. Nia's reflection flickered on the monitor. Calm, precise, unbreakable. Her throat was dry, but her gaze didn't waver. 10 seconds. Diane leaned in, voice silky. Relax, Ms. Carter, just a conversation. That's what Lowell said, Nia replied. 5, 4, 3, 2. Good evening, Diane began, eyes locked on the camera. Tonight we're joined by Nia Carter, the former CEO at the center of the explosive Carter Files investigation. Nia, thank you for being here. Thank you for inviting me. Diane's smile sharpened. You've accused one of America's largest corporations of systemic racial bias. That's a bold claim. Some say you're exaggerating to reclaim relevance. I didn't accuse them, Nia said evenly. Their own words did. Diane blinked, caught off guard. Still, critics argue you mishandled your position, that your leadership style created conflict. My leadership style was fine when profits rose. It became conflict when I stopped staying silent. A flicker across Diane's expression, irritation. She pivoted. Let's talk evidence. These leaked recordings, you deny being behind the hack? I didn't hack anything. I received them anonymously. Yet you used them. I used the truth, Nia said, and the truth doesn't expire just because it's inconvenient. The studio went still. Producers exchanged glances behind the glass. Diane leaned back. Some viewers see this as a personal vendetta. I lost my career, my reputation, and my safety, Nia replied. If this were personal, I'd have disappeared. This is structural. I was just the next target. Diane's tone hardened. So you're saying the entire system is racist? I'm saying the system rewards people who can pretend it isn't. A murmur from the control room. The interviewer's mask slipped for a second. Tension, then calculation. Ms. Carter, what do you hope to gain from this crusade? Nothing, Nia said simply. Except for the next black woman who walks into a boardroom not to have to bleed for her right to exist there. The silence after that line was heavy. Diane's smile faltered. There are those who say you're divisive, that you make race the center of everything. Nia's gaze stayed fixed. Race was the center the moment they decided I didn't fit the picture. Behind the glass, the director gestured wildly. Keep rolling. Diane tried to recover. But surely you admit your company had diversity initiatives. Diversity without power is decoration. That line landed. Cameras caught the shift, her control, her calm authority, the clarity cutting through polish. Diane shuffled her papers, off balance. Do you see yourself as a victim or a hero? Neither, Nia said. Just someone who stopped lying to make others comfortable. A pause. Then she looked directly into the camera, into millions of homes. If you're watching this, she said, voice low, deliberate, ask yourself why the story of a black woman defending herself feels like rebellion instead of survival. For a moment, even Diane didn't speak. Then the red light blinked. End of segment. Producers flooded the stage. Diane smiled again, forced now. Well, that was quite something. Nia rose, unclipping her mic. No, Diane, that was the truth you didn't expect me to survive. As she walked off stage, her phone buzzed. Hundreds of notifications exploding at once. Malik's text appeared first. You broke them. Trending worldwide. She exhaled, a sound between relief and exhaustion. Then another message came through, anonymous again. Enjoy your 15 minutes. They're preparing their counterstrike. Her hands went cold. She looked back toward the glowing studio lights. Victory had a pulse, but it also had a price. Outside, cameras waited. She stepped into the flash storm, head high, knowing the war had only just shifted terrain. The summons arrived 3 days later. Thick envelope, gold seal, polite venom. Carter versus Vantage Corporation. The company was suing her for unlawful data possession, defamation, and breach of fiduciary duty. Malik read the document twice, jaw tightening. They're going full scorched earth. Good, Nia said. That means they're afraid. They're also powerful, he countered. They'll paint you as vindictive. Their legal team eats whistleblowers for breakfast. Then I'll feed them evidence. Court was scheduled for the following week. By then, the narrative had split in two. On one side, Nia, truth-teller, face of accountability. On the other, Nia, ungrateful troublemaker who'd weaponized race. Talk shows, podcasts, panels. Strangers argued her humanity like policy. Her mother called again. Baby, this isn't just court. It's theater. Be careful what you give them to perform. I'm not performing. You already are, her mother whispered. They built the stage. You're just standing on it. When the trial began, the courthouse buzzed with cameras and murmurs. Lowell was there, calm, polished, shaking hands with his attorneys. He smiled at her once. The same practiced smile from that boardroom. Inside, marble walls echoed with every footstep. The judge, white-haired and unreadable, called the session to order. Ms. Carter, the opposing counsel began. You admit to possessing private corporate data? I admit to possessing proof of discrimination, Nia replied. Which you obtained without authorization? Which was given to me by someone who had it. So a stolen file. A stolen right, she corrected. To fairness. The courtroom murmured. The lawyer smirked. Miss Carter, isn't it true you've benefited from the very diversity initiatives you now condemn? I benefited from my own competence, she said. The initiatives just let them take credit for it. Malik sat in the back row taking notes. Cameras weren't allowed, but everyone knew the world would know every word. Lowell's lawyer pressed on. You were dismissed for unprofessional conduct, not race. You became combative, emotional. Nia's laugh was sharp. When a man raises his voice, he's assertive. When I do, I'm unstable. Is that the logic we're using? The judge rapped the gavel once. Ms. Carter, please keep responses concise. Yes, Your Honor. Her tone stayed even, though her pulse thundered. Across the aisle, Lowell whispered something to his team. They chuckled quietly. When he finally took the stand, his performance was flawless and regretful, composed. We valued Ms. Carter's leadership, he said. But at the time, her approach was alienating staff and investors. It was never about race, Nia's lawyer stood. Mr. Lowell, can you explain this? He held up a printed email. Lowell's smile froze. The lawyer read aloud. Investors don't like her look. Need someone who fits the image. The room shifted. Reporters scribbled faster. Context, Lowell said quickly. That was about branding. Branding, Nia's lawyer repeated. Of your CEO's face? Lowell avoided her eyes. Outside the courthouse that afternoon, protesters gathered, some chanting her name, others waving signs calling her a fraud. Malik joined her as she exited. You rattled him, he said quietly. Not enough. You will. That night on the news, commentators dissected every word. Some called her composed. Others called her aggressive, the same script rewritten endlessly. At midnight, her doorbell rang. A courier handed her a plain envelope and no return address. Inside, photos, her and Malik in the cafe. Her walking into the office that night. Her apartment building, a note at the bottom. We see everything. She burned the photos in the sink. Watched the edges curl and blacken until nothing was left but ash and breath. In the mirror above the sink, her reflection looked steady, not fearless, but resolute. They could watch all they wanted. She wasn't backing down. Tomorrow, she'd face the court again. And this time, she'd bring the truth they couldn't bury. By the third day of trial, the city pulsed with divided tension. Protest lines tangled outside the courthouse, half shouting for justice, half for silence. Inside, the air felt thinner, like oxygen rationed between those who belonged and those who didn't. Nia sat at the defense table, spine straight, eyes fixed on the judge. Her hands trembled slightly under the desk, not from fear, but from the cold calculus of exhaustion. Lowell's lawyer began again. Ms. Carter, can you explain why, if you believed in your innocence, you attempted to contact the press before filing a formal complaint? Because every formal complaint I ever filed vanished into HR silence. So instead of following policy, you went rogue. I followed truth, she said, voice level. Policy protected them, not me. The lawyer smiled, pacing. You're saying the company was complicit in a racial conspiracy? I'm saying, she said, the system was designed to protect men like him. Gasps scattered. The judge called for order. Lowell's face hardened. Gone was the polished sympathy. In its place, cold fury flickering behind blue eyes. During recess, Nia stood by the window overlooking the courtyard. Her mother's text blinked on her phone. You're stronger than their structure. But don't forget, structures fight back. Malik approached. He's unraveling, he said. That email broke the facade. He'll rebuild it by morning, Nia replied. He's too good at playing victim. When court resumed, Lowell's defense shifted. He took the stand again. Not as the confident executive, but as a man feigning wounded dignity. I mentored Miss Carter, he told the jury. I believed in her. I wanted her to succeed. But at some point, ambition crossed into hostility. She accused everyone of bias. How can a company function like that? Nia's chest tightened. He's weaponizing empathy. Her lawyer whispered, stay calm. But Lowell wasn't finished. I respected her, he continued, lowering his voice. Even admired her courage. But she saw enemies where there were none. Something in her broke then. Quiet, precise. She rose before the judge could stop her. Enemies, she said. You mean the men who copied my work and got promoted for it? The investors who said they wanted someone softer in front of cameras? Or the board that replaced me with a man who plagiarized my entire proposal? The courtroom froze. Lowell's lawyer objected. Speculation. But her voice cut through it. You think silence is civility, she said. You think endurance is gratitude. You hide your bias behind policy, your fear behind professionalism, and when we speak, you call it hostility. Her words echoed against marble and glass. The judge struck the gavel twice, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. The room wasn't breathing anymore. It was watching. She sat down slowly. The quiet that followed wasn't contempt. It was realization. Collective, uncomfortable, irreversible. When court adjourned, the crowd outside was larger than ever. Cameras swarmed. Reporters shouted her name. One voice broke through. Low, measured, familiar. Ms. Carter, a journalist said. If you win, what comes next? She met his gaze. Winning isn't justice, she said. It's just a receipt that the fight happened. That night she returned home to find her apartment door ajar. Inside, nothing was stolen, but her files were gone, her laptop wiped clean. Malik arrived 10 minutes later, chest heaving. "They're escalating. They're desperate," she said. He handed her a flash drive. "Backup copies. Every document, every email. Stored off-site." She nodded. "Tomorrow we end it." Morning came gray and heavy. Rain streaked the courthouse windows. The final hearing began with the judge's somber tone. "Both parties will have one last opportunity for closing remarks." Lowell's lawyer went first. Polished, persuasive. He spoke of reputation, loyalty, misunderstandings amplified by emotion. He ended with, "We ask the jury to remember that perception is not proof." Then Naya stood. She didn't look at the jury. She looked at the cameras. "I didn't come here to destroy a company," she said quietly. "I came because silence is the luxury of the comfortable. You say perception isn't proof? Then listen to the pattern. Listen to the voices that were dismissed before mine. The women, the men, the names you don't know because they never made it this far." She paused, heartbeat steady. "You can erase my records. You can smear my name. But you can't unsee what you've seen. And you can't unknow the truth." When she finished, the courtroom was silent. Even the judge hesitated before speaking. "Court will recess for deliberation." Nia turned, meeting Lowell's eyes for the last time. His expression was no longer fury, while it was fear disguised as confusion. Outside, the rain had stopped. For the first time in months, she felt her lungs fill completely. The verdict would come tomorrow. Whatever it was, her story was already irreversible. The courthouse was packed before dawn. Reporters filled the marble steps like vultures circling the smell of truth. Protesters clashed outside, signs soaked by early rain. Every camera lens waited for one sentence, "My, guilty or not." Nia sat between her lawyer and Malik, palms folded on the table. She hadn't slept. Her mind was a flat horizon. No hope, no despair, only readiness. Lowell entered, flanked by two attorneys. His suit was flawless. His smile was practiced. But the tremor in his hand when he reached for his tie betrayed something new. Calculation turning to panic. The judge entered. Silence fell. After careful consideration, he began, "This court finds in favor of the defendant, Ms. Naya Carter." A pause, thin, electric, then an eruption of noise. Gasps, cheers, cries, camera shutters. Lowell's face collapsed. His lawyer leaned close, whispering, but he wasn't listening. Nia exhaled once, sharp and short. She didn't smile. The judge continued, voice calm. "The evidence presented demonstrates clear racial bias and retaliatory dismissal by Vantage Corporation. Further investigations are to be initiated at the federal level." The gavel struck. It was done. Reporters surged forward, microphones thrust like weapons. "Ms. Carter, how do you feel? What's next for you?" She turned toward the courthouse doors, rainlight streaking through the glass. "I feel seen," she said. "That's all." Outside, Malik caught her hand before the crowd could swallow her. "You did it," she shook her head. "We did something. Justice isn't finished." They walked past flashing cameras. Her mother stood by the steps, umbrella trembling in her grip. When their eyes met, the old ache cracked open. Years of silence, distance, misunderstanding. "You fought them," her mother said softly. "But it cost you." "It was always going to," Nia replied. They embraced for the first time in years. Later that evening, Nia sat alone in her apartment, news coverage flickering on muted screens. Every channel replayed the same clip. Her standing at the verdict, expression unreadable, captioned, "The CEO who fought back." Social media blazed. Naya Carter trended worldwide. Some called her a hero. Others called her a liar. Everyone had an opinion. No one had the whole story. Her phone buzzed, ignored an email notification. Subject, formal statement, Vantage Corporation. She opened it. A public apology, carefully worded. "We deeply regret the events leading to Ms. Carter's dismissal." Corporate contrition dressed in legal armor. Another email arrived seconds later, anonymous. Attached was a short video file. She hesitated, then clicked. It showed Lowell in a private meeting speaking to a colleague. "You can't have a black woman running point on investor calls," he said. "Optics are everything." The clip cut off abruptly. Naya stared at the screen. The evidence she'd risked everything for. Proof. Now undeniable. She uploaded it to Malik. "Your move," she texted. Within an hour, it was everywhere. By midnight, Vantage's stock plummeted. Board members resigned. Federal regulators announced a full investigation. Lowell was escorted out of his office by security the next morning. The poetic symmetry should have felt like victory. It didn't. Days passed. Interviews, invitations, panels. Her name became symbol, her story repurposed into slogans. She gave 3 speeches and declined 50. Each microphone felt heavier than the last. In one interview, a host smiled too brightly. "How does it feel to be America's icon of resilience?" She paused. "Icons are what people look at so they don't have to act," she said. "I didn't fight to become a statue." Silence. The host shifted uncomfortably. That night she returned home, turned off every light, and sat in the dark. The world had changed, a little. Enough to notice, not enough to rest. Her phone buzzed again. Malik. "Turn on the news," he said. She did. Footage of Lowell, pale and unshaven, being led away by federal agents. Fraud, discrimination, obstruction. The headlines rolled like thunder. Malik's voice came through softly. "It's over." She watched the screen, expression unreadable. "No," she said. "It's just begun." She closed her laptop, stood by the window. The city outside was wide awake, restless, alive, indifferent. Tomorrow, new headlines would bury hers. New injustices would rise. But somewhere, a door had cracked open, just enough light for someone else to see the way through. Naya pressed her palm to the glass, breathing slow. She wasn't an icon. She was a fracture in the system, and sometimes a fracture was enough to let the truth in. Months passed. The city moved on. The morning headlines no longer carried her name. They carried new fires, new scandals, new faces for the crowd to praise or devour. Vantage Corporation had collapsed under federal scrutiny. Lowell's trial loomed. Corruption, falsified contracts, perjury. Once the face of refined authority, he now appeared in grainy footage, hair unkempt, eyes hollow. Nia watched none of it. She had learned to recognize victory as another kind of exhaustion. Her apartment was quieter now. No calls from journalists, no late-night strategy meetings, no flicker of breaking news. The silence wasn't peace. It was recovery. She spent her mornings in a small community office on the south side, working with young entrepreneurs who had ideas but no backing. The walls were painted warm yellow, not corporate gray. The desks were mismatched, and the air smelled faintly of burnt coffee and possibility. Malik stopped by often. "You could be anywhere," he said one afternoon, leaning against her desk. "Teaching at Stanford, running think tanks, doing keynote tours." "I'm exactly where I should be," she replied. "I built enough ladders for other people's towers. Time to build bridges instead," he smiled. "You really believe change starts small?" "No," she said. "I believe it starts honest." Outside, the city buzzed and indifferent and infinite. She'd once chased its approval like oxygen. Now she walked through it, invisible and unburdened. Her mother visited occasionally, bringing cornbread and stories about the neighbors. The distance between them had softened into mutual understanding. "You don't smile much these days," her mother said once. "I smile when it matters." "You won, baby." Nia shook her head. "No one wins this kind of fight. You just survive long enough to make it mean something." At night, she still dreamed of the boardroom, the fluorescent lights, the whisper of judgment, the moment her title was stripped. But now the dream ended differently. She stood, gathered her papers, and walked out by choice. One morning, Malik brought a small package, unmarked envelope, heavy with folded paper. Inside was a letter written in slanted cursive. "Ms. Carter, I resigned today. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't see it. I was one of the ones who stayed silent when they mocked you in meetings. I'm sorry. You were right. Silence is a choice. Thank you for making me hear mine. A former colleague." Nia read it twice, then folded it carefully and placed it in a drawer. It was not absolution. It was proof that echoes existed. The weeks stretched into routine. The world outside was louder, meaner, faster. But in small corners, classrooms, offices, cafes, people whispered her name not as a headline but as a lesson. One rainy evening, she spoke at a local university. The auditorium was small, half filled with students. No cameras, no PR handlers, just voices eager to understand. "Everyone wants a redemption arc," she told them. "But justice doesn't end with a gavel or a tweet. It's what happens after, when the cameras leave, when you have to live with what you exposed. The system doesn't crumble overnight, it cracks, and you have to keep pushing until the light seeps through. A student raised a hand. Do you ever regret it? She paused. Regret assumes I had a choice, she said. Silence was never an option. After the talk, a young woman approached her, nervous, eyes bright. I'm starting my own firm, she said. All black women, all first-generation grads. You made that possible. Nia smiled, small but real. Then make it matter. Outside, the rain had stopped. The air smelled like renewal, that brief moment after a storm when the world resets itself. Later that night, she returned home and sat by the window, city lights flickering below. On her desk sat a single framed photo, her first day as CEO. She barely recognized the woman in the picture, proud, naive, still believing merit would be armor. She turned the photo face down. Not rejection, just release. A low hum from the street below rose and fell. Cars, voices, life continuing without pause. She realized that was the point. Her story had never been about staying in the spotlight. It was about clearing enough space for others to step into it. Her phone buzzed. A text from Malik. They're naming the scholarship after you. She typed back, don't, then deleted it. Then retyped, make it anonymous, he replied with a single word, done. She leaned back, eyes on the skyline. Somewhere far off, sirens wailed and faded. Somewhere else, another injustice was beginning. She didn't flinch. She didn't reach for her phone. She simply watched the city breathe. In the silence between headlines, she had found something larger than vindication. Endurance. The quiet strength that survives when applause dies. And in that stillness, Nia Carter became what she'd been fighting for all along. Not a symbol. Not a victim. A fact the world could no longer deny.